right, welcome to episode number 6 of The Great Blue Shark. I'm your host, Chris Hopfer, and today joining me is Josh Zolin, CEO of Windy City Equipment. It's a service-based company that specializes in repairing all types of commercial restaurant equipment in the Phoenix area, and the host of Blue is the New White podcast. Welcome, Josh. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you, Chris. I do appreciate the invite and always excited for an opportunity to speak with like-minded people.
Perfect. Well, I looked on your LinkedIn. I looked on your website. Obviously, you're in a business that when people got appliances, they need repairs. And when they need repairs, it's cool that you got a YouTube video on there for the do-it-yourselfers to kind of do a little troubleshooting. Tell me, how did you get into the restaurant equipment repair space?
So that's an interesting story. How far back you want me to go?
we got a little time, my friend. You tell me.
All right. So I had a little bit of a unique upbringing. For those who don't know me out there, I started my life and my career as a young boy in the stunt business. So my grandfather doubled for Charles Bronson. He was one of the first stunt people ever in the film industry.
Yeah.
You know, coming from being a cowboy to, getting thrown off horses in the movies and stuff like that. So my whole maternal side of the family, then he, kind of bestowed that. That was a family business upon all my uncles and my mom. And it's actually how my mom and my dad met. He went through the school that my grandfather had to allow people to break into the stunt industry. So my whole family were stuntmen and stunt women all through their lives, basically. And that's all I knew growing up. So I was the kid that rolled cars before he had his driver's license and jumped off buildings. And, so that was my high school career, basically. And that's what I was born into and what I thought I was going to do the rest of my life. So at about 18 years old, as soon as I graduated high school, I moved out to Hollywood and began pursuing that career. In the meantime, my mom and my dad had split, and he had gotten out of the stunt business and became a foreman at a bakery, of all places. And so he had moved from Chicago out to Arizona while I pursued the stunt business out in Hollywood. And eventually, a few years in, I realized that even though it was everything that I knew growing up, that it wasn't exactly what I was born to do, right? As we all turn corners at different times, and my realization was that I didn't want to get hit by cars for the rest of my life.
That's got to be tough.
It was, and it also wasn't. I looked around and I saw my entire family limping around, and we're as safe as we can be in the stunt industry, of course.
But that's still dangerous, I'm sure.
It's still dangerous, and it still hurts no matter how you slice it, man.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there a secret to just getting bucked off a horse or falling off a building or motorcycle crashes? I can't imagine. There's probably a safe way to do it. It's just still going to hurt.
It's an art form, man, and every single one of those stunts is done a different way, and there's different elements of safety involved. But yeah, absolutely, there is a strategy to every single one. So not that you don't get hurt, but you get hurt as little as possible.
Yeah, and there's it probably doesn't all happen on the first take either.
No, it doesn't. Actually, that leads me to the story that caused me to leave Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I was doing a commercial for, you remember the old cell phone company, Alltel Wireless?
Yeah.
And they got bought by like Verizon or something like that several years ago. But anyway, they had these commercials where you had the Verizon guy, the T-Mobile guy, the AT&T guy, and they're all usually standing around talking. Well, this specific commercial, they were on the sideline of a football field. And I doubled the guy that AT&T guy, I forget his name. But anyway, his role was he had to throw his arms down and say, "Man, how could this day get any worse?" And then right then and there, he gets pummeled by a football player.
Right? Yeah.
Right? And so the guy that got pummeled was me.
You're just catching it in the ribs.
Was it. Catching it in the ribs. I was the guy that knew how to fall. So I didn't get any pads. This guy was probably 6'3", pushing 240 with full football gear on,
Yeah.
right? Running
Yeah.
as fast as he could.
Yeah.
And they called me in because, hey, I know how to fall.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did about 15 takes of that. And because they just couldn't get it right? They
Yeah.
just couldn't get the take that
Yeah.
they needed. And so finally it was all said and done, and I'm limping home and, sore for the next week or so
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
that. And finally I saw the commercial air and I realized they used the very first take that
Are
we
you
did.
kidding me?
No, it was take number one. And I could tell by the way that I fall because it hurt the most.
Yeah.
But yeah, they used the very first take. And at that moment, I realized that if I stayed doing what I was doing, I was never going to be more than a rag doll for somebody who was deemed more important than I was, whoever I was doubling, right?
Yeah.
I'm the guy that they put in so that guy doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And that just didn't resonate with me. That was not my personality at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy. I want to do something great. I want to
Sure.
I want to help people. I want to make a difference, right? And there's
Mhm.
only so much of a difference I can make, getting hit in the face.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that caused me to move, right? So your original question, I'm sorry, I took you down a long path
No,
here.
no,
but-
no. That gives me some background.
yeah. So my dad, after he had moved to Arizona, started a little restaurant equipment repair company because that's what he was doing when he was foreman at a bakery. He was fixing
Yep.
big ovens and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he had an entrepreneurial spirit, and they were kind of, screwing him around at the bakery that he was working at, and he was putting in ungodly hours for very little pay. And so finally he said, "Screw it, I'm going to go open my own business."
Yep.
And that's what he did. And so after that commercial aired, I called my dad and I said, "Listen, Dad, I have no idea what it is you do for a living, but I know there's some opportunity there. I want to come work alongside you."
Yeah.
And that's what got me from California to Arizona,
Yeah.
and started my career as a technician in the equipment repair industry.
There you go, dude. Hey, and there's something to be said working with your dad in the family business when it's your idea, not his idea, but your idea. There's
That's right.
a big difference in there, and I see that a lot. So, if someone decided to get into the restaurant equipment space, what kind of background should they have? I've got a couple ideas, but I'm interested in hearing what your take is.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a misperception that exists everywhere. You don't really need a background to get into the this business, right? You need an aptitude, you need a mechanical aptitude, but even that can be learned for most people. I'm not going to say everybody,
Yeah.
right? But for most people, if you have a desire to learn and you're good with your hands and you can work, you work better creating things than thinking about things, then chances are you're going to be good in a skilled trade, and specifically this skilled trade. So we like to take people right out of high school, right, and mold them into the technicians of tomorrow, if we're given the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a school that teaches what we do, right? You can go to trade school for refrigeration or for HVAC or for plumbing or to be an electrician, but there is no school to fix restaurant equipment.
Yeah.
So every job is an apprenticeship basically until you work your way up and become a junior technician, senior technician, and the like. And I talk a lot about this in my book, also titled "Blue is the New White."
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's the misperception, but you only just need a desire. Like anything else in life, if you got the desire, you can build the skill.
Yeah, well, and how rewarding can you imagine that it makes those employees feel when they actually, they took the call on somebody's problem, they was able to go out there and fix it, using their hands, using the background, using the people skills that you guys probably trained on to accomplish that. And I'm assuming that the blue is the new white has got some similarities to, there's a lot of college kids that go to college, they don't know what they want to be. They go to college to get that degree, they still don't know what they want to be. Versus, something like this. You see a lot of that stuff over here in the Oklahoma City metro. There's a big shortage of electricians. There's a big shortage of plumbers. There's just a big shortage of people that want to work. And that's what we're seeing a lot of. I mean, I've got some background before I got on the insurance side of things, and still do. Is I mean, in the farm and ranch, and I mean, there's a lot of work in that, and there's just got. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of direction. Tell me, kind of give me the roadmap on what the road to becoming an Inc. 5000 company like. What's that like? I mean, because obviously you've grown this thing.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's so much a road as it is an incredibly rough terrain that has absolutely no direction or forgiveness.
Right.
It is. It's definitely something that I would have hoped to achieve, but I wasn't sure that I had the facilities or the capacity
Hmm.
or the ability, to do it. But lo and behold, we landed on that list 3 years in a row, which was just completely unbelievable. And I mean, it really starts with the mindset, right? I started one of your questions, or finished one of your questions, by saying that it's the desire, right,
Hmm.
to succeed, whatever success looks like to you. I mean, growing a business and creating something bigger than myself and my family and anybody that I could employ is how I define success, right? That's my
Hmm.
version of an accomplishment, and so that's what I chased, with everything that I had. And I think that's the key. You see this day and age, kind of to your point, right?
Yep.
It's hard to find people to want to work, but what I'm seeing is it's hard to find people, even when you do get them to work, to focus on
Hmm.
one specific thing. I think the average tenure now of any employee is like 3 years
Yeah.
or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculously low. And so my philosophy has always been a little different. I see, especially my generation and some of the generations coming up, they try a whole bunch of different things to see what works, but they never give anything enough time to make it work,
Sure.
right? And so that's what I've focused on doing, and the result is what you see, right? I've poured myself into an industry that I never thought I would be in, that I never even knew existed,
Hmm.
right? I thought I was going to be walking red carpets at this
Yeah.
age,
Right.
and I found something far more rewarding to me personally,
Yeah.
and it's because I stuck with it and everything that I did, and I have aligned everything in my life to the trade that I pursue.
So give me a little bit of background. An Inc. 5000 company? What does that mean to our audience?
So an Inc. 5000 company is that's one of the 5,000 fastest growing companies in America as deemed by Inc. magazine,
Okay.
right? And so I think there's something. I just don't quote me. There's
Yeah.
10 million businesses out there,
Right.
something like that. So one of the 5,000 fastest growing is how you make that list.
Gotcha. So you guys have really taken off. If you made it 3 years in a row, that's saying something. How many employees you guys up to now?
So right now we're pushing 70 employees, so not
70
not a
employees.
lot.
Yep.
This is a relative number to growth as
Yep.
well. So the bigger you are, the harder it is to
Oh
make
yeah,
that
absolutely.
percentage,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah. You can't double and double and double.
That's
Uh,
right.
or you maybe, if you did, you may be scratching your head going, why am I doing this again?
That's
And
exactly
so
right.
the profit goes out the window. So how did that impact? I mean, once you hit Inc. 5000, what kind of an impact did that have on your business? Once you hit that on that magazine.
You know, that's a really good question. It was cool to be able to market that.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just transparently, it was really cool to say that, hey, we've accomplished this. But the satisfaction wasn't really in the gloating.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's what we were doing with the marketing, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
listen, it worked, and it,
Sure.
it got eyeballs on us and
Yep.
stuff like that. But really, the ROI was the team,
Oh yeah.
right? What it did internally. I mean, for those who run businesses, you know how hard it is to run a business, to get
Hmm.
everybody in your business aligned to a common vision,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. But when you achieve an accolade like this, and you can accredit it, not to me as the CEO,
Yeah.
right, the owner of the business, but to the team and them putting their best foot forward every single day, and without them doing that, there's no way that we could have achieved what we did,
Yeah.
and that's evident and everybody feels that. So it reverberates through the organization and really creates a sense of pride for
Yeah.
being part of it.
Yeah.
And so those 3 years, we really came together as a team, and the growth almost snowballed to fuel the growth.
Wow. That, if any of our audience watches football on Saturdays, a lot of times the commentators on the Saturday broadcast will kind of highlight a quarterback or a running back or somebody that usually it's offensively that makes a lot of huge plays. And they just can't say enough good about them during that game. And what I like to see, Josh, is after when they're interviewing him at the end, he'll give praise, but he'll also say, listen, if it wasn't for my O line or my D line to do this, and every guy out there on that team, I wouldn't have had the game that I played. So they recognize that they did something good, like you did, but you also said, hey man, it wasn't me, it was a team. If it wasn't for my team, I couldn't have done this. And so the credit really, a lot of, it's shared equally to some degree. Because it's a team
100%.
to pull that off. Since starting your podcast and doing some content marketing, what outcomes has your business experienced from that content creation and growth?
Yeah, that's another good question. So the podcast kind of spun off the book, right? I published the book first, and then there was such a great response from the book. I had tradespeople reaching out to me saying, hey, I'd love to talk to you and just kind of bend your ear and tell you why your book resonated with me. And eventually I was like, well, I should start recording this because these are some really cool conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's kind of how it spawned, right? And it's grown significantly since then. And the opportunities that it's presented is like nothing I've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of woven back into the fabric of Windy City Equipment and caused our entire company to level up as a thought leader in the industry, right? We're collaborating with tradespeople all over the world, and putting our profession and these professions on a pedestal and in the spotlight, and that means a lot not only to the people that I'm talking to, but to the people in the organization because it makes them feel like they're part of something big.
Yeah.
And for me personally, what I've been able to learn from, I'm on guest, I think 157 or something like that. And I've been able to learn just vast amounts of information very quickly by having all of these conversations. And so just incredibly, incredibly fortunate to be in that position, and from a hard ROI standpoint, 2 of my former podcast guests are actually executives on my team now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was almost like I was interviewing them without knowing that I was interviewing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd say, and this is my assumption. I'm saying once you wrote the book, that for a lot of your peers in that industry, it gave you number one, instant credibility. Now, he wrote a book. What else do we got to say? The guy, he's obviously smart. He knows what he's talking about because he's got a book and he's got it published. And then how do you market for your podcast? How do you get guests to get on, the Blue is the New White podcast?
Yeah, it's a simple reach out. If there's somebody out there that I think I should talk to, either me or my director of marketing will reach out and just say, hey, you want to be on the show? Oftentimes that spawns, word of mouth. People will recommend other people to be on the show,
Right.
and I try to keep it a very specific type of guest. I don't want to get too far off track, too far out of the niche that we've created. I've done that once or twice, and it has not felt great,
Yeah.
in the conversation and even with the response from the audience. So, yeah, really it's old school, right? We just go, we find somebody worth talking to and we invite them on the show.
And I think I kind of skipped and kind of got that out of line. Josh runs the Blue is the New White podcast. How did that what when you're saying that the blue is not the new white podcast, what does that mean? And I mean, who are your ideal interviewees?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, blue is the new white is the term that refers to, blue collar skilled trades are the new, what people would consider white collar professions in a coveted way. People covet white collar careers, because that's kind of what we've been forced into, right? College is the way, and the way to succeed is to think, not to necessarily work with your hands, but to create with your mind, which, listen, all of that has its place.
Sure.
But because so many people have been forced into this prerogative, that has left a void in the skilled trades industries, which has in turn caused increased wages, better benefits, increased safety, enhanced cultures. So the businesses now that people used to say, oh, well, you don't want to get your hands dirty, work with your head, not with your hands, that kind of stuff. These businesses now are paying unbelievable amounts, even more so than what you can get from a lot of college degrees. So the whole premise of Blue is the New White is to talk to the people that have actually experienced this, right? Or so in and around the skilled trades, blue collar communities, and talk to them about why they love what they do, how they find fulfillment, why it leads them down a path of success, how much they make, what that means for them and their family and their employees and their coworkers and all of this stuff. So take, everything that makes them happy and, put it on a platform to allow people to understand how the skilled trades and blue collar businesses allowed that for them.
I love it. And here's the thing and I mean, I love blue collar. I love hard workers. I like the guys that get out there and just go. And I'm glad that, they're getting an opportunity to make good money. And here's what I think is happening too, is you had a generation that was trying to move their kids to the white collar and not think. And so now you've got a generation that they're even more dependent on the skilled trades because they don't have any idea how to do any of that stuff. Unfortunately, I mean, I grew up where we had to do it and we got to do it and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people that as simple as changing a tire, changing your oil, changing a light plug. They don't know how to do it, and you're like, "Oh my gosh!"
I know
that's tough.
The number of people that have no idea how to put a chain back on a bike for their kids is astronomical.
Yeah, it's nuts. All right, so where can people find out more about you, Josh?
Yeah, so you can find me on basically all social media platforms at Josh Zolin. You can check me out at bluesthenewwhite.com. There you can find the book, you can find the podcast, you can find whatever you need about me. And then, WCEcommercial.com is my actual business, not my brand. So
okay. And do you try to have podcasts with folks outside of the Phoenix area, or is it primarily right in there? I mean, what's your footprint? Because Worldwide, perfect.
Yeah,
right,
we've had one of our last guests was from Istanbul, Turkey.
Oh, really?
She was a female engineer who was constructing one of the buildings out there in Turkey.
Love it. Well, I think we kind of touch on with the Great Blue Shark. I mean, some of my folks want to do podcasts. If you're open to have more opportunities for slots, I'll definitely try to connect you guys there. Josh, thanks for joining me today, and thanks for everybody tuning in. If you got any questions you'd like answered by the Great Blue Shark, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. The link's going to be in the description. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe, follow, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to help us get more Great Blue Sharks to come share their story and advice. Josh, thanks again. Many thanks, and we'll talk soon.